early voting in Iowa kicked off last Thursday and goes through November 7th. Joining us this morning to give us more details is Bremer County Auditor Shelley Wolf. So thanks for joining us this morning. And for people who aren't able to vote on that November 8th election, I guess, what are some of their options?
They can early vote or absentee vote. They're one and the same. They have to request a ballot in writing, whether they do it in person or through the mail. There's no restrictions to who can vote early. Anyone can do that. It becomes vital, though, for those who are not able to be at the polling place.
Awesome. And I guess for specifically college students, with Wartburg being in Waverly in the Bremer County, I guess what can they do if they're not from in Waverly or in Iowa, I guess?
They can register to vote as a Bremer County voter. Prior to October 29th works the best for them because it's easier to verify them and they don't have to have extra proof. They can vote. I'm
for
sorry.
college students, that's okay. Like, what can they do? Do they register in Bremer County, or do
Yes.
they have the option of doing the hometown too, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
they can register to vote in Bremer County, use their college address, and become a Bremer County voting resident, or
Okay.
they can maintain their home address and vote absentee through their home address.
Okay, and what do you think is easier kind of for college students? Just kind of depends on who you are for that, or?
Yeah, any way is easier. I guess if they're a Wartburg College student, they're right here in Waverly. If they would register here, they could come to the court and vote and not have to do the process of the mail, where back home they'd probably have to do it through the mail for sure. They were going to be home during a regular work.
Right, but if they were to do it for mail, they'd have to include box number and residence hall, correct?
Yes, very important if they register in Bremer County to include their Wartburg box number and which hall they live in, because there's a voting precinct line that goes through Wartburg, divides the wards of Waverly.
Gotcha. That's kind of confusing, so students should look that up. Or
yes,
how do they look that up?
call my office.
Very nice. And so I guess another thing people struggle with is people with disabilities kind of maybe struggle getting to the polls, or if they do get to the polls, kind of casting their vote there. I guess what are some of those options they have?
They can come to the courthouse and vote curbside, or they can go to their polling place and vote curbside, or they can vote through the mail. If they can get to the polling place on election day, there are devices that can be used so that they can vote independently.
And we kind of talked about people who travel. And so what can they do? People who are maybe overseas over that November 8th date, or older people who maybe go down south when the weather starts to get cold. What can they do then?
Yep, they can do the early voting process too. They can either vote in my office now before they leave. If they're already gone or they don't do it soon enough, then they can vote through the mail. Overseas, there's a whole different process. They get special treatment to make sure that they don't lose that ability to vote just because they're overseas, and that's both civilians and military. Their ballots were mailed out earlier than anybody else's ballots were able to be voted.
And just because I'm curious, with those early ballots, I guess what happens to them leading up to the November 8th date?
The big question. We store those. They're sealed. The voter seals those, so they are never looked at or able to be accessed in any way. And we just store them in boxes, counted and labeled and everything accounted for until the day before the election. We have a team of both Democrats and Republican, just residents of Bremer County, who take an oath, who come in the day before the election. They open all of those, and then the next day they run them through the tabulator so that they're counted. But until then, they are stored in a vault in our office in a box, secured, so that no one has any access to those ballots.
Very nice. So very locked up for that, but a very effective early voting process, though, nonetheless. So thanks so much for joining us this morning to give us that more information.